Hey, what's up? David Cohen here for Learn Now FX, and welcome back to another exciting Fusion tutorial. So today, we're going to be taking a look at how to make these cool fluid simulations inside of Davinci Resolve. These are 2D fluid simulations, and you can recreate these using a free macro that is brand new, and you can get it on Reactor. So let's get started. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of this footage because I don't need it. And I'm going to remove selected clip. I don't need this in the timeline, don't need it to cause clutter. And I'm going to go to the settings, and my timeline resolution is 1280 by 720, 24 frames a second, UHD 720, that's the video monitoring, and click save to save the changes, but I'm going to click cancel because I already changed them. Right click on the media pool, select new fusion composition, change the duration to 4 seconds. I'm going to click on create. I'm going to drag the composition onto the timeline. Select the composition, make sure your playhead is over it, and go into the Fusion tab. Now the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my media out node and I'm going to drag it over here to the corner. And I'm going to grab a background node and I'm going to look at it in the viewer. I'm going to bring the RGB values to 0.5, 0.5, and 0.5. That gives it a middle gray. That's pretty good. And I'm going to add an ellipse mask to this. So it takes a while to load. So I'm just going to make the ellipse mask smaller. Something like this. That should work. Great. Control S to save this. And I'm going to right away grab a copy of this. And I'm going to paste the copy here so it doesn't get in our way. And I'll show you later what this does. And this background node, I'm going to add a color corrector node. And I'm going to go to frame 0 and I'm going to animate hue group. And I'm going to start off at red. I'm going to go to frame 24, which is a second in time. I'm going to bring it to blue. I'm going to go frame 48, 2 seconds, bring it to green. I'm going to go 72, bring it to probably like a purple. Then go to frame 95 because 96 is already not a frame, 0 counts, and the last frame doesn't. I'm going to go bring it back to red. Now we can just play this animation. It looks pretty good. And the final result, I'll tell you, it looks very similar to a film I watched when I was a kid, Ratatouille. Like when he would taste the cheese and then the strawberry, he would have these swirls everywhere. But that's just my opinion. That's not what this thing is for. This is a 2D fluid solver. It was made by my friend Peter van Houten. It's very cool. It's free. You can get it on Reactor. And I'm pretty sure there's an optional donation as well. It makes these very cool swirls. It works very well. And I'm going to show you how to use it now. And big shout out to Peter because he helped me with this to figure it out, because he did provide a sample comp, an example for us to see how it works. But there was one little detail that I couldn't figure out, and that's about the bit depth. And I'm going to show you that now. Control S, and you have to go to the Fusion tab up here on the toolbar. Go to Fusion settings, frame format, make sure your depths are locked, and you have to make sure that it's at least 16-bit float per channel. It can't be 8-bit, it can't be 16 integer, it has to be 16-bit float. And I'm gonna click save, and these are our settings. I'm just going to bring this to HD 720. Frame rate is supposed to be 24. I don't know why it's not synced with the edit tab. That's pretty weird. So I'm just gonna click save. So here's our frame. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take this ellipse node, this second ellipse, the one that we're not connecting to anything, and I'll explain why in a second, why we have to do this. And I'm going to just take the center, drag it off screen, maybe here. That's good. And I'm going to animate the center. Make sure you're at frame 0 when you animate it. Go to frame 24. And I just want to send the actual ellipse to the viewer. I'm going to bring it here. Select this point, and you can play with the curve like that. This curve you can play with also to give something very interesting, very cool result like that. I want to bring this point a little bit closer because I don't want it to be off screen for so long. Control S and go to frame 48. Select the ellipse, and I'm going to bring it probably somewhere here. I'm going to play with this curve. Careful not to ruin the last curve, so I'm going to make it longer. This curve also, could play with it. Make it long like that. You play with these curves till you get a pretty cool result. So let's try playing that. Yeah, so that stutters a little bit. So I'm gonna take this point and I'm gonna go to this keyframe. Just gonna remove the keyframe. And let's see a different place where we can move it that it looks pretty cool. That looks not bad. So I'm just going to make this curve a bit longer. This can be actually here. That's not bad. Make this curve shorter. And this curve, oh, Control Z, I don't want to do that. You play with these curves till you get some pretty cool looking results. So I'm going to go back to the beginning and try playing this. Yeah, so it's pretty cool. Now from 48, I'm going to go to frame 72. Select the ellipse, bring it up somewhere there. And I'm going to select this point, play with it, make it smooth like that. That's pretty good. This one's very sharp though, so I'm gonna play with this. Yeah, make them short. The shorter you make them, the less sharp it'll be. So I'm just gonna make it really short like that. That's pretty good. And same with this one actually. Make these very short handles. This one's actually extremely long, but we're gonna leave it at that. So let's try playing this again. Alright, and the last keyframe we're gonna make is at frame 95. I am going to take this center and I'm going to drag it here. Control S. I'm gonna smooth this curve out like that. Probably something. Or you can do the other direction, you can make it go down. I just wanted to make like a brush that goes all over the frame. And this one I can make shorter, I can make it longer. So let's try playing this again. So that's pretty good. I'm gonna open the spline tab now. And it's going to be pretty hard to find this. So, oh, never mind, I didn't bring the Sprut solver in yet. So I'm just going to select all these points, Shift S, make them smooth. That makes it a little bit better. Yeah, so it's still a little bumpy, so you'd have to play with these for a while, these curves. So I'm just going to Control S, save this. And next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to search for Sprut emitter first. And I'm going to pipe this into here. And I'm going to select this ellipse mask, pin it. I'm going to go to the Sprut emitter. This is the Sprut emitter. And I'm going to add an expression to the center. And I'm going to link it to the center of our ellipse mask. And the reason I didn't do this animation inside of the Sprut emitter, I could have done the same thing. I could have made here keyframe, then went here, then here, then here. But that when you do that, it makes it very unstable, and I had it crash on me a couple times, and I really didn't want to do that in a tutorial because I played with this quite a bit. So while we're in the Sprut emitter, I'm going to change a few things. I'm going to set this random type to per xy, random scale to relative to velocity, bring up this effect density, and I'll unpin this ellipse mask. We don't need it anymore. And random direction, I'll bring it up a little bit, reseed the random seed here, and everything else is pretty good. Next thing I'm going to add is a Sprut solver. Now, these two macros, there are three actually, you can get them on Reactor, and I wouldn't send this to the viewer just yet because it wouldn't record very well. So I'm just going to pipe this in, and time step I'll set it to 2. Set the end frame, sorry, that was a mistake, Control Z. Last frame I'm going to set as 95. That's good. And the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go here to the fluid properties, and I'm going to bring up the viscosity, bring up the velocity dissipation, somewhere towards like the middle of the slider. Velocity diffusion, also bring it up. Density dissipation, density diffusion, it all deserves to go up. And also this. Now the vorticity I think I can leave it at default. And in the example comp, he says what all of these mean. Viscosity is the thickness of the fluid. Velocity diffusion is the makes it softer. The the velocity part softer. This makes the dense part softer. This is the swirliness. This makes the swirliness softer. He basically, in simple language, explained what all of this means. So I can bring the vorticity a little bit up, and the turbulence strength I'm gonna bring up a bit too. And you're gonna see what that does now. I'm gonna take a fast noise, and I'm going to bring the detail, something like that. Bring down the brightness, bring up the contrast, bring the scale somewhere about 40. That's pretty good. Let's look at it. I think we still have quite a bit too much detail, so just make it like soft blobs like that. I like it this way. And this fast noise needs to go into the turbulence field of the emitter, of the Sprut emitter. And you have one in the solver too. I'm not sure if this should go in there too. That's something I didn't ask him. But if you didn't set the bit depth right, this wouldn't work at all. So after you set up everything, the last thing I'm going to change, I'm pretty sure that this affects here. So I'm pretty sure I was supposed to connect this into here also. I'm not sure how this works. I'm just going to leave it the way I saw in the sample comp. I didn't play with all the settings here because this takes quite a while to render. And the last thing I'm going to do in the Sprut solver, I'm going to take this and I'm going to change the color mode to max. And that's basically it. You can play with all these settings if you have the time, and I'm pretty sure that's everything. So what you'd want to do now, you want to go to frame 0, select the solver, and click Run Simulation. And that's basically it. You would get frame by frame by frame until it's done rendering. And once it's done solving the fluid, then you'd pipe it into like a color corrector node, and then you could add some detail, maybe some glow. You can add different things to it, and then you would pipe it into the media out node. I'm not going to show you how to do this in the tutorial because it's very boring, first of all, and second of all, it takes quite a bit of time. If you're on a laptop, it'll take you quite a while. It could take you an hour and a half. If you're on like a pretty good computer, it could take you maybe 30 minutes for this. This is very, very simple. It's not like that much of a setup. That's why I did it in 1280 by 720. I didn't want it to take that long. So you just click this button and that's it. After that you would add your basic color corrector, you could add color curves, you can add some glow, and that's basically how it works. And I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please like, share, and subscribe. Follow me on Twitter, and I'll see you in my next tutorial. Thanks, guys.